Welcome to the Resiliency Project. We bring you stories of resilience and reinvention. And we started this series to help people struggling during these COVID-19 times. I'm Teddy Katz. My partner on the Resiliency Project is PJ Kwong. PJ, welcome once again to another edition of the Resiliency Project.
Hi, Teddy. How are you? This is just so much fun.
Oh, today I'm really looking forward to, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But before I do, how much do you think sport and politics mix, PJ?
Well, to tell you the truth, a whole lot. I was not a guest, like I was a participant on a town hall this week with the Minister for Heritage, Stephen Daigneault, and he's also responsible for sport. And just the fact that we've got politicians so engaged in the world of sport now, sport is no longer an afterthought. So it's one of the things that makes being Canadian so cool.
It certainly does. And mixing sport and politics is something our guest knows all about firsthand. The Honourable Chantal Peticlerc was named to the Senate of Canada by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and she's been sitting as an independent senator since 2016. Before her time in politics, Chantal Peticlerc became one of Canada's most decorated Paralympians. She competed in 5 Paralympic Games, winning 21 medals, including 14 gold in para-athletics or wheelchair racing. In 2008, after winning 5 gold medals and setting 3 world records at the Beijing Paralympic Games, she won the Marsh Award as Canada's Athlete of the Year. She was also named the Canadian Press Female Athlete of the Year. Senator Peticlerc remains an advocate for building a more inclusive Canada, and in particular, PJ, recognizing the contributions of people with disabilities. Senator Peticlerc, welcome to the Resiliency Project.
Teddy, just give me one quick second. Here we go. I wanted to do it with a flourish.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm quite happy to be here and excited, and it's good to see you.
It's great to see you, and I am so excited to have you joining PJ and I today. We've known each other, just so people know, we've known each other since your first Paralympics in Barcelona and my first Paralympics as a journalist. How do I refer to you now?
I think Chantal will do just fine.
All right, well, that's good. Chantal, let me start with an off-the-wall question I like to ask some of our guests. What keeps you up at night these days?
Oh my God. You know, I will have to say spontaneously is my son. My son is 6-year-old, and like every parent in this country right now, I worry about the virus, but I also worry about how they're, you know, those little humans are coping with it, and we're talking about resiliency, and we always say, "Oh, kids are so resilient," but I just worry a lot about, you know, how they deal with it, what they're saying, what they're not saying, and the long-term social development impact it's gonna have. So as you can see, I've been thinking about this quite a bit, but at the same time, we will all get through this.
Do you notice any difference with your son in terms of how he acts and sort of maybe some of the stresses that he's feeling?
I think I do, because, you know, 6.5 is a young age, because and they have a lot of questions. They don't always understand the complexity of it. So he doesn't know why some people are wearing masks, why some are not, and what is this virus and how does it work, and my little one, Elliot, is a very happy, spontaneous, outgoing little boy. And I remember one time it just broke my heart because he just started running to friends, and then he stopped himself and he asked me if he was allowed to do that. And that just really broke my heart, because I'm like, okay, this is having an effect on his basic who he is. Like, he's self-censoring himself, and little things like that. And of course, you know, when we were like every parent in this country, screen time was up, so that worries me. And now we're back in school, but are we going to stay in school is also a bit of a concern. And he wants to play. Sometimes he's allowed. So I think it does, but at the same time, I think the best we can do as parents is make sure that we keep it together and that we provide that environment that is healthy and balanced and that will nurture his sense of safety in his family, but also in the world. I think that's the responsibility that we have as parents.
I'm going to come back to Elliot and to your parenting in a few moments, but I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your career as an athlete. Mm-hmm. You accomplished so much in your career and in your life. I wonder if there was one aha moment for you on that journey that you can talk about.
Oh, it's there was a very important moments in my career. I raced for 20 years, so of course my top moments will be podiums. And in fact, I'm just looking at the picture that you posted, and it's a world record. And more than podiums for me is breaking records. I was crazy about trying to push the limits, trying to see about how fast can you get and can you break that record and can you do it again? And but when you talk about moments, the one that comes to mind is really not about a victory, but a big defeat, and in fact a counter performance that I had in Paris, World Championships in Paris. I want to say 2003, but maybe it's 2002. And short story, I meant to be on the podium. I ended up 5th. And the reason that it happened is just basically, I just choked, my head went crazy, pressure and injury that I had. And I had a strategy that I did not follow. And so just a really bad day. But it was an important moment in my life because up to that point, I've always been a very talented athlete and I worked hard, but I had some really great performance, but it was difficult for me to repeat high quality, to repeat performance on a regular basis for many reasons. And it's the case for many athletes. And after this performance, I remember my coach talking to me, Peter Eriksson, and I was devastated. And he just said, you lost the race because you lost it in your head. You didn't keep your focus. You started thinking about other things and being scared about what the other athletes were doing. And, the classic choking from an athlete's perspective. And it was the time that Peter said, we need to fix that because you have everything else. You have the talent, you work hard, you love to race, but we need to make sure that you are able to stay strong in your head, no matter what happens around you. And it is after this event that first I started thinking about that. I started working with a sports psychologist, and really, it really made a huge difference. So, and I think it's because of this moment, because not only because of the 5th place and bad performance, but because of the talk, the heart-to-heart talk that I had with my coach, who was able to tell me the real thing, that I went on fixing a few challenges that I had, and then I went on winning and winning and winning, and that, that took me to my 10 consecutive gold medals.
It's interesting that you talk about, and actually, before I get into the follow-up question, if you have questions, if any of our viewers have questions, please send them along and PJ will get them to Chantal and I. But it's interesting that, Chantal, that you talk about your big aha moment being this time when you didn't have the success that people came to know you for, and learning from that. And, people often talk about failing and not being afraid to fail and learning from that failure. And this is a good example of that from one of our top athletes.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it is a classic, but it's a classic because it's true. And it's true that we learn through victory, and they are important. And we chase them as an athlete, you know, like if you ask me what's the most fun I've had, well, clearly it's the medals, and I loved it, and I don't regret any effort that it took me to get there. But when you're thinking about life-changing events, and events that really make you want to take a step forward and say, okay, what is it that I want, and what do I need to do, and who do I need to become in order to make my goals happen? I think those are very important, because change is hard, and sometimes, you know, we can surf through life without making changes that really would bring us closer to what we want to do and who we want to be. But human nature is funny this way, because if we don't need to do something, sometimes we don't do it, you know. And so athletes, because we want the victory so much, well, sometimes we do have a ability to make those big changes that really are difficult, but we're going to do it because we know what it takes to get to where we want to go. But then it's worth it, because it makes us not only better athletes, but better human beings.
Now, in Tokyo, if the Tokyo Paralympics happen next summer, which hopefully they do, hopefully we get through all this COVID-19 stuff, but U.S. wheelchair star Tatiana McFadden is actually closing in on your record and could surpass you if she wins 5 more medals. If I have my math correct, if she wins 5 more medals in Tokyo, she'll surpass your amazing career Paralympic medals as the most ever won by a female in athletics. I'm curious how you feel about that.
Well, if she wins 5 gold medals, so they need to be the right color. So you see how I feel. I feel still a little bit competitive, but you know, Tatiana's been doing great. Manuela Schar has been doing great as well. And I've retired now. It's over 10 years. And I know in my head at some point, someone will break this record, just like I broke the record before that, and made history, becoming that first athlete to do it. But someone else will do it at some point, and maybe Tatiana. And I think she can. I think she can, because, you know, she's very talented. She works very hard. She wants to build it, this success, and she wants to break that record. She's inspired. So the truth is, I will be happy for her, and I know how tough it is to do that. Like, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. So, of course, huge respect to whoever will break that record. But it's going to pinch a little, of course, you know, like it's always nice to be holding a record. So, but it's going to be a bit of a sweet and sour moment for sure.
I think in your sports career, you made it look so easy, even though what you were doing was so hard. But oftentimes you were making it look easy in a lot of your races. And in that career, you were one of the most successful Paralympians, not only in terms of the medals, but in terms of gaining sponsors and getting them behind you. Have we seen that with any other Canadian Olympians since your time? And if not, why haven't we seen that?
I think, you know, the sport has changed. Athletes don't change. They, you know, you have a talent, you have a potential, you have a dream and a goal. But Paralympic sport has changed. So, and for the best, it is a little bit more structured when it comes to media, when it comes to sponsorship. What I love to see, and I'm hoping we're going to see it again in Tokyo, is how more athletes have decent corporate support and media recognition. I enjoy to see that. And it's true that it may have looked easy for me, but I have to say that we worked really hard. And I have to say that when I was competing, I was not on a mission to get my sport recognized, but it was important for me to get the same respect. So when it was about sponsorship, I remember when we talked with my agent, it was like, okay, I'm holding on to gold medals. What are they worth to an Olympian? So I'm not going to sign anything less than what a gold medal would be worth to an Olympic medal, you know? So I was always very principled in terms of the respect that I feel Paralympic athlete deserved, and that should be the same as any Olympic athlete. And I think we're getting there. It's taking a while, and I think I played a small part in that, but I'm very pleased to see how I feel. There was a time where, you know, when you had a Paralympic game, you had one athlete or one star, and every media was kind of covering that one Paralympian. And now I feel that the media are covering more Paralympian, you know, wheelchair basketball, wheelchair racer, swimmers. And so there's room for not just the one, I guess, symbol of the Paralympics, but many more athletes. And I think that this is proof that the movement is getting the recognition that it deserves.
When you talk about fighting for that respect and trying to get the same respect as an Olympian for the medals that you won, I seem to recall, if my memory is serving me correct here, and you can tell me if it's not, I seem to recall you being quite upset one year when you weren't given the same consideration for a sports award as able-bodied athletes or Olympians. What happened? Is my memory right on this one? Yes,
I think your memory is correct. That I want to say, when I came back from Athens with 5 gold medals, and you know, something that had never been done in my sport, and world records, and a season that had been just so amazing, and that I was upset that I was asked to share an award with another athlete that, in my view, did not perform as well. And it was a very tough moment for me, but I remember thinking that, you know, that I had to stand for my values and my belief, because there were so many younger Paralympic athletes, and because of the message that you want to send. And if you keep saying, you know, I train as much as an Olympian, I work as hard, I have the same amount of pressure, and my performance has equal value, well, then you need to be coherent and stand by it. But it is not easy, because I never really signed in to be an advocate. You know, what I wanted to be was an athlete. I love training, I love racing. And so, but sometimes, because of who you are, because in my case, because I was a Paralympic athlete, and you see it sometimes, you know, women athletes or racialized athletes, even if you're not on a mission, you realize that because of who you are, and because of the place that you have in the public eye, well, it comes with a responsibility, and you need to take action, and you need to just live with this responsibility, even if it was not your first intention, you know. So there was a few times where I felt that I had no choice to be vocal about what I thought was unfair to myself and to the Paralympians in general. And I never really enjoyed doing it, but when I look back, I think that it was the right thing to do, and I think that it did have a little impact.
I'm going to jump in here. We've got a great comment on that very front from Fabiana, who's talking about your fight for respect and equality and that it is inspiring. So whether you intended for it to be that way or not. But a great question coming from one of our regulars, José Lanouette, who wants to know, is there equality between the genders in Paralympic sports? And I guess how they are handled.
Great question.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
I would say yes, it is a good question. It is a very good question. I would say that maybe there is a little more equality in genders in the Paralympic sport, but for the wrong reasons. It's because there's less money. So there's less prize money, there's less sponsorship. So maybe it seems like it's a little more equal, but I wouldn't say it's because of moral values. And I want to say that when it comes to the performance themselves, I think women athletes face the same challenges, whether they are Paralympians or Olympians or professional athletes. I always say that in order to test gender equity in sport, the question to ask is to spontaneously ask someone, who won the 100 and who won the 100 this year and who won Wimbledon. And you will see that a lot of times the first name that comes out will be Usain Bolt or, Federer. And I think for me, the test of gender equity in sport will be when we spontaneously answer both names. And we're not quite there, whether at the Olympics or the Paralympics.
Well, what's interesting about that, Chantal, is if you can't see it, you can't be it. It's the old, cliche in some ways, but a lot of female sports isn't shown. I was on a panel discussion with Sarah Pavin from beach volleyball, who right now is the world champion. And, at the Olympics, that sport is shown left, right, and center. But as soon as the Olympics is over, it's hard to see, a great athlete like Sarah performing. And we don't necessarily say, we don't see a lot of men's beach volleyball either, but a lot of female sports, that is the struggle right now. We're starting to actually see it more. We started to see more WNBA games actually in the middle of COVID. So maybe that's a sign of things to come and important new direction for sport for sure.
No, that's so true. And if we see, I don't have the numbers, but one time I saw the numbers on visibility for women athlete in Canada versus male athlete, and it is very troubling. And I know some has to do with professional sports being mostly what we see on TV and in the media in Canada, but it is something that we need to work on for sure.
You talked about fighting for equality and the lack of respect and speaking out and being vocal after Athens. And in 2008, you did win the Lou Marsh Award, and you were the CP, the Canadian Press Female Athlete of the Year, which is often given to the top professional athletes or maybe even the top Olympians. How did it then feel to be recognized with the top stars in Canada, including the Olympians, after having that battle 2 years before? Can you explain how important that was for you, that moment?
The Lou Marsh was a great day in my life. As you know, our viewers maybe don't know, but the Lou Marsh is chosen by sports journalists from all across Canada. So it's really the passionate about sport and the experts about sports in Canada who choose that one Lou Marsh recipient, whether it is Paralympic, Olympic, professional, male, female. And so it's huge. And I was just amazed, and I was so happy and to be in such great company of Canadian legends, really. And it was an amazing moment for myself. Like, I know I was, and I worked so hard for those 5 medals and to do it 2 times and with the pressure that it required and the work. And I knew I was retiring. So it was everything coming together. One of those perfect moments in life, really. it just meant so much to me, and also for the sport, like I took it for myself, but I also took it for what it meant in Paralympic sport and the symbol that it meant. So yeah, great moment and great memories.
I want to turn from sport to politics, because we did talk about you being appointed as an independent senator in 2016. You mentioned not being comfortable necessarily, not always seeing yourself as an advocate. So I'm curious how it felt when that happened.
Yes, the Senate happened in my life at exactly the time where I was wondering, okay, I retired after the games in 2009, and then I did some coaching for the UK team. I was chef de mission in Rio, and I did some keynote speaking, and then I was at the right time where I was asking myself, what is it that I want to do? And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with, I guess, the second career after sport, but I knew that I wanted to make a difference, and I wanted to do something that would have an impact. That was my priority. And so when I got a call from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau saying, that he wanted to appoint me to the Senate of Canada, well, first I felt it was such a huge honor, responsibility, and privilege, and especially at this time where this government was saying, we want the Senate to become more independent and less partisan. And do you want to be a part of that? And really, it's asking, do you want to make history? Do you want to be a part of history? So it is such an amazing challenge and responsibility. But one of my first questions was really, I am not a lawyer and I'm not a politician. So I really wanted to be sure that with my expertise and competence, and as a person with a disability, as a person with interest in sport and physical activity, and persons with disability, can I make a difference? Can I bring something to this institution? And everybody told me, or the persons I asked said, yes, you will and you can. And when I arrived in the Senate, it did not take long for me to realize that indeed I can make a difference. A few months after I was appointed in the Senate, we had to deal with the Bill C-14, medical assistance in dying. And of course, as a person with a disability, I had something to say about that. I had a voice to bring to that conversation and that debate. And that really made me realize that, yes, although I am not a lawyer, although I don't have a legislative background or political background, I have something to bring to that institution.
When you look at, your life, your career as an athlete and now a senator, I'm curious where you see the interaction of sport, culture, politics, especially given the immense platform that athletes have. How do sports and politics mix in your eyes?
I think I want to say maybe they don't mix enough in the sense that I feel that, when we are on the Hill, Parliament Hill, House of Commons, Senate, committees, I feel that there is still a lot of room for to voice concerns about the health of Canadians, sports for all, high performance. So I guess in a way, they could mix more if you think about it this way. On another level, what I can say is that a lot of the things that I've learned as an athlete, but every athlete will tell you that, a lot of things that I learned when I was an athlete, I bring to the Senate, a way of working, a way of being able to deliver something. And so this has great value, but what I'm trying to do is to make sure that whether we're considering bills, whether we're looking at committees and recommendation, I think there's room to talk more about health and physical activities and persons with disability for sure. So I'm trying to be that voice with others.
One of our viewers, Andrea Carey, who I'm sure you know well from Paralympics, her work with the Paralympics, says, I'm such a big fan of Chantal. So there you go, Chantal. We've seen athletes recently. I was mentioning the WNBA. We've seen athletes actually sitting out this year to show their support for Black Lives Matter and to fight for social justice. How do you feel when you see this? You mentioned that there could be more mix of politics and sport. What do you think when you see that?
Yeah, that is a way for sports and politics to mix. And I guess what I want to spontaneously, what I would say is, I think there are times when you need to do it. You need to use your platform as an athlete to make powerful statements. And so I think the statements on Black Lives Matters, they can change history, they can change decision making, and everybody has a part to play and a responsibility. That being said, I know it is very difficult for the Olympics and the Paralympics, and I remember being an athlete and even going to China and having the big speech about, this is not the time to put on your Free Tibet t-shirt, and we were told to do so. So, and I know myself as an athlete, my focus was really on performing, but at the same time, I'm not sure where I stand on that. Like, it's not really, all or nothing. I think there is room for using your platform as an athlete to change the world. I don't know how far. I don't know what that platform should be. But I know that we should not close that door, and that there are some times where things need to be said. And I think that even our sports organizations sometimes have a responsibility to take a stand, and not only when it's about doping in different countries, but I think that we need to do that. I was very proud. I remember when Canadian Olympic Committee and Paralympic, when they make a very, very clear statement on diversity, and how I remember seeing a picture of Canada House at the last Olympic saying, this is your home, no matter who you are, who you love, what you believe in, this is your house. And I thought, well, this is great. This is taking a stand for what is important to us as Canadian, diversity, for example. But I think sometimes, yes, we have a role to play, and we need to play that role. And the Olympics or Paralympics and individuals, athletes, definitely can do that and should do that when it's the time. Mm-hmm.
Andrea Carey just had another comment. Right now, more than ever before, we need to use our voices, which is, yes. I think a lot of people would agree with. Yes. But, I've often found, you talk about how it's a complicated issue. So there's a lot of gray areas. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've often found in journalism too. The older I've gotten, the more I've realized, you know, in journalism, we kind of like to paint things in black and white, but actually the best stories are somewhere in the middle. They're gray. And there's a lot of interesting comments on both sides. And, you know, I think you're right. I think we're at this point in time, this tipping point where people do need to use their voices, but we have to figure out the right ways of doing that.
We have to figure out the right way. And I think also we have to respect athletes who don't want to do it. And it doesn't mean that they don't agree with it. But if you ask me in Beijing to, you know, to make a protest or to do something, maybe I would have said no. You know, like I don't disagree, but I have a plan, and my plan is to win my medals, and I've worked for it, and that's what. And so I think we need to respect also that not everybody wants to do the same thing at the same time on the same stage, and we don't know that, you know, someone will be maybe, you know, not wanting to be politicals during the game, but then go back home and do some amazing work on the field. So I think respect is also a very important word when it comes to sport and politics. Respecting someone that wants to keep things separated, for example.
On another note, I just want to turn to something else. Some people can't wait to finish with all this COVID-19 stuff. They can't wait for the world to get back to normal. But I want to take you through some comments that Craig Spence, who is the communications, you know, runs communications for the International Paralympic Committee, one of our guests a couple of weeks ago, he said, we shouldn't be going back to normal because normal wasn't great for, in particular, people with disabilities who, he says, often face discrimination when it comes to jobs, when it comes to the built-in environment, it leaves them out. How do you feel about that?
Well, I can't wait to be rid of that virus, that's for sure. I think we all agree with that, and we're going to figure it out. I know that. But I agree that, you know, we don't want to go back to exactly the same thing. I'm hoping that this will be a turning point in history of humanity, saying, you know, let's take that challenge and turn it into an opportunity for better for the environment, better for, you know, inclusion, better for respecting maybe a balance of working more at home, which sometimes could be great for persons with disability. And so we have to think about it. I'm thinking about it right now as we return to school, and I have to say, I'm not really impressed with how we're doing it in Canada, because I look at some countries like Denmark, for example, or Finland, where they're saying, okay, well, let's take this opportunity and say, well, maybe, you know, maybe smaller groups are better. Maybe outdoor teaching is not a bad idea, and it's, you know, it's good to fight the virus or to minimize or the risk, or, you know, but at the same time, it's good for kids. So I think this is a, you know, under all the challenges and the downside of this virus, there is also opportunities to think big and think, you know, maybe maybe the downtown can be a little bit different. We can turn it into a different space for different use. I love seeing more bicycles in Montreal. Why not try to make it at the same time useful, but also, you know, having some urban planning, urban design, accessibility. If we're going to redo things, let's try to redo it so that it's better for persons with disabilities. So I do hope that we don't miss the boat on trying to turn this into some sort of opportunities for different sectors and the environment, for sure.
You know, in a way, it sounds like you're saying, let's look at the world in a totally new way. Like, let's not be afraid of looking in a totally new direction at how we've organized society. Or when you're talking about return to school, let's look at doing school in another way.
Yes, I think so. I hope so. That's my hope. I hope that we can do that. And even as individuals, and we've all heard stories on, how this confinement has forced us to, not go to the hairdresser and
I don't have a problem with that.
But we cook more, we stay at home more, slow down the pace. And I know for myself, I thought, well, I don't, some of it, I like that slower pace. I like the cooking maybe. And so I'm hoping that when we go back to having more, freedom, I'm hoping that I keep some of the stuff that I've learned, that I was forced to learn from that experience, and I think there's some things that we should keep, even if it's only let's go outside for a walk more often, as individuals, as a collectivities, and as a country.
I want to talk to you about another guest that we recently had on the Resiliency Project, Brent Lakatos, who right now is one of Canada's top para-athletic sports people. And Brent was talking a little bit about himself and his wife, Steph Reed. But you have actually a connection to Brent. I wonder if you could tell the viewers about that.
Well, I've known Brent Lakatos ever since he started wheelchair racing, and he's always been a very talented and passionate and hardworking athlete. And we're both sprinters, so we connect together. We did a lot of training. We had the same coach for a long time, and in fact, I donated a racing chair to him when he started racing. I want to say his first chair. I think it was. And I remember seeing him racing with my used racing chair, and how pleased I was that, first that I could help. And so of course I keep that connection, and he's doing so great, and he's such a good spokesperson for the sport as well. And it's always a pleasure to see how great he's doing.
It was great having him on, and he was talking about his story and also about Steph Reed, his wife, who did a TED Talk recently where she talked about basically losing her leg in a boating accident when she was 15, actually growing up here in Canada. And she talked about how she discovered how our world is not built for people with disabilities. And she said, we face challenges every day, whether it's finding jobs, as customers, getting around. Her take on things is, she said, medical conditions do not disable people. It is attitudes and structures of society that disable people. How has that manifested itself for you in your life, Chantal?
Oh, this is absolutely true. And, as a person in a wheelchair, you get out and you face different obstacles and barriers, whether they are physical, whether they are also in terms of perception. And I have to say that I was lucky in a way, because I started performing in sport very early and winning medals. And so, of course, it changes the way people look at you, because they see you like a champion. And so I was okay with finding jobs and that kind of thing. But that being said, you get out and you want to do your life as regular, and you will face little barriers all the time. And when we talk about a barrier-free Canada, it's not just a word, because the reality is a person is with disability, but a person, if you take away the obstacles, really the disability itself doesn't matter all that much. If you take away physical obstacles, I'll go everywhere. If you do not have a prejudice or preconception when you look at a person with a disability, well, the disability won't matter. So really, taking away those barriers is crucial. This is what we need to do more and more here in Canada and everywhere. And most importantly, we need to make sure that we can look at individuals with no barriers, no preconceptions, no prejudice, and it will change everything. But we're not quite there.
Well, you mentioned before about Elliot and being a mother to a 6-year-old, and I'm curious, when you talk about society's perceptions, how much people may be surprised to hear that side of your story.
Yes, I think I myself was surprised when we when we had Elliot on. Well, even when I got pregnant, and how many people thought, oh, because I had my son when I was older, in my 40s, and suddenly a lot of people said, oh, we didn't think you could have children. And I'm like, no, I was just busy winning medals. But and then it really got to me that a lot of Canadians still believe that persons with disability cannot have children, which is really not true. And no matter the disability, really. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. And then a lot of people will ask questions on your ability to, or have doubts and fears on your ability to take care of your child. And it would be, they would be surprised on how you figure it out. And of course there are challenges. And even myself, as a new parent, I remember thinking, okay, how am I going to do that? How am I going to figure out that car seat situation? And you do have some limits. I think I have to acknowledge that. I did not go in a pool alone with my son until this year, really, because you're not going to take a chance if you can't save you, even if I'm a good swimmer. So there are some limits, but a friend of mine was telling me, we all have limits anyways, and all parents have some challenges, some limits. And I guess when you're a parent with a disability, you become creative on knowing, how you do it, how you do things, how you, and it's only for a few years, because then they grow up and they figure it out themselves. And I was always amazed on how my little Elliot, even when he was 2 or 3 year old, like he was able to climb up my chair and sit on my lap and help me out a little bit. And so it is, parenthood is a amazing adventure. And it does have a little more challenges, I guess, when you're a parent with a disability, but really it's you figure it out and it's worth it.
What were if I could ask that question, what were the most unique challenges you might have faced as a parent with a disability?
Well, I think it depends on the disability. And as a parent in a wheelchair, but quite able, like quite strong and physically independent, I guess, it's just about when you're used to be like I was. You used to be very independent, doing everything yourself. I have my car, I do my cooking, my grocery, my shopping. And then you have this little one who starts walking and running and don't necessarily come back because they're 1 year old. So, and you can't really, you will not put your chair in danger. And this is my cat in the back of the screen. So
that's perfect.
My cat, yes, we're live. And so those were the challenges that really I struggled in my head, because I was so used to be 100% independent. And then you have this 1 year old and you're like, okay, let's go to the park, but you want to be safe, and you want them to be safe. So how are you going to do that? The swimming, I love to swim. And so this was one thing, but everything else, just the feeding, nursing, diapers, like that was easy. That was not too bad because of my, ability, because I'm strong, upper bodied, and the car and everything. So, but it was always, it was only a couple things, and for a limited period of time where I was challenged by this little one that wanted to, discover the world and had no limits, but you kind of have a responsibility to try and keep them alive, right? So, and I have to admit that I did not like that. I did not like having to say, okay, even to my husband, well, we're gonna do this, but you need to be there in case he runs off and puts himself in danger. So it was not the most fun, I have to say, but at the same time, I think I learned from it. I learned to let go. I learned to, not be afraid to ask for help. And that in the end, it's not that big a deal to say, well, I need a hand with that.
Chantal, I know one of the things that you try to do as a senator is advocate for recognizing the contributions of people with disabilities, Canadians that maybe have made a contribution to our society that people in Canada don't know or don't hear enough about. What kinds of stories can you share on that front?
Well, I'm really trying to play that role in the Senate, and so I do it as a legislator for sure. We've passed last year Bill C-81 for barrier-free Canada, and so of course this was a big piece of my work, trying to bring my knowledge and expertise, and trying to make sure that this bill would be the best possible bill to protect Canadians with disability. But at the same time, I'm trying to really do it, whether I'm on a committee or whether we're doing a research or a study, and trying to always have that persons with disability lens. And I think this is important. I think there's more than 10, some people say 15% of Canadians living with disability, and we are not that represented on Parliament Hill. So every time that I can be that voice, I make sure that I speak out, and that I make sure that we are taken into consideration.
We call this program the Resiliency Project, and you posted something on Twitter in August that really made me want to talk to you here on the Resiliency Project. I would have wanted to talk to you anyway, but this just seemed so apropos. You wrote, "Summer 2020 has been beautiful, yet strange, full of adventures, yet full of challenges. Becoming paraplegic at age 13, it made me realize a thing or two about resilience. Living in the moment became my life purpose. As summer comes to an end, remember to cherish every moment." How much do you live by those words, Chantal?
Yes. Well, I try to live by those words as much as I can every day. It is sometimes struggling to do it these days, because we are at a time where there's so much uncertainty and struggles and frustration and fear. But I think I'm doing a good job. I think I have some sort of a talent for happiness or aptitude to it. But I also try to, to make a point to pause in a day and say, okay, we're safe, we're happy, we're a healthy family. And there's and I always try to see what we can do, what are the things that we can do, and not focus on what we can't do. And this week here in Montreal, there's a lot of things that have closed, and we're reconfining a little bit. And but we're gonna be playing outside. We're gonna do a picnic, just the three of us, and try to make the best out of it. And So, and I think it's a choice. I think at some point we have a choice in where we're going to put our focus, what we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be doing, what we can control. We are at a time in history where there are a lot of things that we can't control. We can't control that virus. We don't control all the decisions that our government, that our provinces, our cities are making, but we can choose, how we're going to spend our day, with what mindset we're going to spend our days, and maybe it's a little bit more challenging, but there are ways to find a small moment of happiness, and we need to make them happen.
Do you have one lesson you can share maybe with viewers that would help them on that front? How you do that and how they might be able to do it too?
I don't like to share lessons because we're all different, but I think the one lesson that I would want to share is that the magic, the happiness, those little moments, they're not gonna jump on us. Sometimes they do, but let's be honest, not always. And so it is our responsibility. I think we need to take a step back and say, okay, what am I going to do tonight that's going to be nice, that's going to be kind, that's going to counteract the negative of this pandemic. And for me tonight is going to be movie night with popcorn, and we're going to be sitting with pajamas in the living room, and maybe it's going to be even 2 movies, and very late night for a 6-year-old, and that's fine. And baking tomorrow and something else. So, but if I don't make it happen, it's not going to happen. And so it's my choice to decide, is today going to be about, this pandemic, or is it going to be about me working out and having movie night with my son? That's my choice. So, and I think we have a role to play in our own life to make those decisions and make those choices.
Chantal, it's been so wonderful to catch up with you, and this conversation has just flown by. I feel like we could be talking all day, but I don't want to take any more of your time. I'm so thankful that you could share this time, share your insights, share so many important lessons for others. Thank you once again for joining us here on the Resiliency Project. It's been such an honor to have you.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thanks.
Merci beaucoup. Thanks to Chantal Peticlerc. The Honourable Chantal Peticlerc is, of course, a senator in Ottawa. She's also one of Canada's most decorated Paralympians of all time. Thanks to you for joining us, and thanks to my partner, PJ Kwong, for working behind the scenes on the production. Please don't forget to share this video with your friends, like our Think Redefined Facebook page, my Teddy Katz YouTube channel, and help us spread the word about the Resiliency Project. Please join us again in a couple of weeks for another great story of resilience and reinvention. Thanks once again to my partner, PJ, and bye for now.